Ironically, with Johnson's return, heavyweight seems more active and stacked than ever. If we revise the past few years of heavyweight title bouts, Ciryl Gane fought against Ngannou in August 2021, Ngannou beat Stipe in March 2021, and from 16 to 2019, DC and Stipe had trilogy. So heavyweight indeed had been stagnating, at least when it comes to the championship fights. And now that Johnson is crowned as the new champion, who is likely going to retire soon after the fight against Stipe, new prospects are on the rise, which is quite rare for the heavyweight. So let's get into it. Jairzinho Rozenstruik used to be one of the hottest prospects in the heavyweight himself. Of course, the heat only lasting until he met Francis Ngannou. Though Rozenstruik placed a perfect time counter, it simply ended up exemplifying how great of a chin Ngannou has actually. After the first loss against Ngannou, he knocked out Dos Santos but was completely outscaled by Ciryl Gane and grinded by Curtis Blades, went through another loss against Alexander Volkov in the first round. Then he faced Chris Daukaus in the same year, securing the first round TKO, which lasted only 23 seconds. After the win over Daukaus, Rozenstruik took on a long break and is facing the new prospect from the Dana White Contender Series, Jailton Almeida. Jairzinho was formerly a kickboxer with a career of 85 fights, 76 wins and 64 knockouts. Yeah, 64 knockouts. The sheer number demonstrates how destructive his hands can be. Well, we can say he couldn't knock out Francis Ngannou, but honestly, I just don't think Ngannou's chin can be compared to any other regular human. But that aside, Jairzinho is a seasoned veteran, but I personally think his professional kickboxing career is slightly overrated. Yes, he was the champion of Wulin Fang Chinese promotion, but compared to Glory and other major kickboxing promotions, the level of competition is comparably low. And if you look at Jairzinho's losses in the UFC, they well demonstrate the difference in the skill set. The fight against Ciryl Gane, Jairzinho simply couldn't pace up and was outworked for 25 minutes straight. And against Alexander Volkov, the two stayed in a very close kickboxing range. Jairzinho struggled in landing his punches and eventually was forced to close the distance, recklessly swinging punches, allowing Volkov to land a clean right straight. Stylistically speaking, this fight favors Almeida greatly. While Rozenstruik is a typical Dutch kickboxer with an upright stance and heavy hands, Jailton is a lifelong submission artist. Almeida started to train jiu-jitsu at the age of 11, but what makes his style effective is his speed and shooting takedown from the distance and absolutely beautiful ability to scramble. He's not a big fighter in size and weight compared to other heavyweights who also formerly competed in the light heavyweight division, but then he moved up the weight class last year, securing 3 consecutive finishes, showcasing superior speed and ground techniques. So let's break down some of his ground games. As mentioned earlier, one of Almeida's strength lies in his ability to close the distance very fast. If you think about other submission artists like Brian Ortega and Damian Maia, it's a rare quality for the jiu-jitsu fighter to have an excellent tackles. Almeida's setup for shooting the double leg from the distance is quite simple, a front kick. But the thing is that his entry is super fast, and once Almeida secures the grip, he has proved that he has enough strength to ragdoll his opponent so far. Shama is a heavy fella, weighing over 250 pounds, and if he can perform the way he did against Rozenstruik in the cage side, I think he will prove himself to be one of the biggest dangers in the division. And over the speed, Almeida demonstrates recording over 70% of takedown accuracy, which is also very rare quality for a heavyweight. Once he went down on the ground, he rights Shamil's wrist, and when Shamil tries to recover the position, Almeida hooks his left leg behind while pushing Shamil with his upper body. Almeida pressures Shamil again with his head so he cannot lift his upper body and recover, securing the position. From the side, constant wrist right, effortlessly passing Shamil's guard and mounts on the top. Then Shamil bridges over to escape, but a beautiful transition to his back, hooking in both legs and rolling together. Another beautiful scramble from the side to top, and here if Shamil had not grabbed onto the cage, Almeida would have set up an arm triangle. What makes Almeida's scramble so smooth is his understanding of where to place his weight and pressure. First, Almeida controls Shamil's neck with his forearm, directly follows in towards the direction Shamil's escaping to prevent him from creating any space in between, then secures his position placing his left hand on the canvas. Shamil is now completely flattened on the ground, and a beautiful transition is followed again. Here, when Shamil jerks to escape, Almeida balances pushing the cage with his left arm and follows through, similar to how you ride a horse even. I don't think I have seen anything like this. A couple of good elbows landed from a dominant position. Almeida initially went for the leg lock, but Shamil defended well with his heels, so instead hooks one leg across and presses with the shoulder so their upper bodies are tightly locked. Shamil grabs hold of Almeida's glove, a quick protest to the referee, and when Shamil wraps around his arm to recover the position, Almeida sees an opening, lands a good punch, and flattens him once again. Another beautiful transition from north position to back, a flashing knee behind the thighs to put him on the ground, and this time flattens Shamil completely. Sham is an excellent wrestler from Dagestan, and seeing him being controlled pretty much throughout the fight in the most dominant positions clearly tells Almeida's ground game will impose a serious danger on the other contenders as well. The thing is that when it comes to the grappling game, it is less likely to expect a sudden improvement in the skill set unlike striking. Experience and the time span are the only key factors. For instance, after shooting the double leg, a Sambo master, Nasruddinov beautifully hip throws Almeida to reverse the position. One of the most important precautions you must take in MMA when you get flipped by a judo or a sambo techniques is that you should not let go of the grip. If not, you will allow the opponents to easily mount on top, ending up in an unfavoring position. If you look at Almeida, Almeida does not let go of the grip and immediately locks one of Nasruddinov's legs to avoid giving a dominant position. After a couple of minutes in a similar position, Nasruddinov attempts another throw, but this time, knowing what to expect, Almeida kicks Nasruddinov's left leg and trips him instead. This is a perfect demonstration of a masterful skill only acquired after lifelong experience of grappling. Overall, Yaltan Almeida is a seasoned grappler both in offensive and defensive technique. Almeida's scramble is great and transitions are absolutely smooth and creative on his back also. However, one thing to consider is that all 5 fights he had so far in UFC had been very dominant and therefore not much of his striking skills have been disclosed. From what I've seen so far, his kicks are a bit wobbly and was exposed to uppercut and counter knee in shooting the double leg, so it would be very much necessary for Almeida to endeavor in setting up his takedown to avoid doing Curtis blades. On the other hand, Rozenstruik gets rewarded a lot with his counters, especially his lead hand. This means he tends to land more precisely against the fighters who advance throwing combinations, and he makes it look so easy as well. Everything he lands is a haymaker. His precision is also great, beyond simply being a powerhouse. Also, Jairzinho is very good at closing the distance in a weird fashion. Dos Santos, Albini, Overeem and Sakai, all of them were thinking they were staying at a safe distance where Jairzinho's punch would not land. But then he kicks on the canvas while in momentum, nearly as if he's throwing a Superman punch, landing successfully, ending the game. So facing Jairzinho, distance management should be the #1 priority. Overall, this fight is likely to end up in a classic fashion of striker versus grappler. Almeida will ceaselessly attempt to take Jairzinho down, and once he gets him on the ground, I don't think the game will last long. So my prediction is Almeida's submission win in the second round, but man, Jairzinho is a powerful fella. There's always a danger against such fighter, and once he touches, I wouldn't be surprised if Almeida gets knocked down. This is the first high-level fighter that Almeida is facing to prove himself as a new prospect in the division, so I'm quite excited to see him perform, and also because heavyweight seems to be finally in action. Thanks for watching the breakdown and hope you enjoy the game.